describe the project. The project basically, it's about strengthening the skills of the women working with textiles, for them to access to fair trade and diversify in this way their economies and alleviate from the COVID-19, while it also supports the measures to safeguard their heritage. One second, okay. Then to explain the project, I will describe the problematic that within the recovery addresses, the three key elements of the project, and finally, the expected results of the initiative. Now, in the historical struggle of Indigenous people to get their rights, their values, and their cultures recognized, women, Indigenous women, are placed in a furthermore vulnerable situation. And this is mainly because they suffer of three types of discrimination. First of all, because of their ethnic origin, also because of their gender, and finally, because of their socioeconomic condition. The experience tells us that tourism is well placed to improve their economies, but also to provide employment opportunities for young and for women, for youth and women, while it is also a moment where there is a cultural encounter between the Indigenous people and the foreigner traveler. And this allows and permits the appreciation of cultures and also of their heritage. Tourism is well placed also to support Indigenous women and connect them with international markets. We know that there is an increasing interest in ethically consumption, and tourism can serve as this bridge to connect this increased number of conscious consumers with the works of the Indigenous woman. And finally, to actually get the appreciation of these ancient knowledges and very sophisticated techniques, so the women can get the fair retribution of their work. Now, I think the Paris Peace Forum has served to discuss the problems of today. And I think we can all agree that COVID-19 has urged all the different sectors to act in scales never seen before. And in this international call, the World Tourism Organization has convened the expertise of tourism, yes, but also of culture, and more importantly, of partners who have a long trajectory working hand in hand with Indigenous communities or who are actually themselves Indigenous peoples. So therefore, the project compromises 5 different partners, and the World Tourism Organization acts as the project coordinator and provides or brings to the table the experience, but the platform as well as a specialized agency of the United Nations and the international leading organization in the field of tourism, while the other 4 partners include the Indigenous-led network, the World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, WINTA, and their experience of using tourism for the advocacy of Indigenous rights, as well as the expertise of El Centro de las Artes Indígenas in the knowledge acquired during the development of the educational model of the Totonaca culture, while Impacto brings to the table an accurate perspective of the place of Indigenous textiles in the international market, and also all the challenges that they face, while Crespial, the UNESCO Regional Center for Living Heritage, includes the expertise of implementing capacity building initiatives across 16 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. So together, these partners design an equally interdisciplinary approach, which is this project within the Recovery Indigenous Women in Tourism, to address the problem through 3 main elements. The first one is capacity building, the second one is market access, and the third one is mentorship program. In capacity building, the activities, we talk about capacity building when when we talk about the activities that are related to strengthen the skills of the woman. And we provide a novel approach in 3 different dimensions. The first one is that this interdisciplinarity in the composition of the partners is also reflected in the model that we will implement in the capacity building. It sounds simple, but believe me, it was very complex for all of us to merge our successful methodologies into one single tool. The second one is that we move from the traditional role of women as passive knowledge receivers to actually place them as active trainers and mentors. And the third novel approach of the capacity building initiative is that we create a momentum, an encounter between communities so they can share their experiences in tourism and in working with textiles. So once the skills are strengthened, the knowledge is put into practice in the second main element, market access. Market access starts with raising awareness in the private sector, where the communities are located, about the benefits of engaging with socially responsible practices. Not only because it's it's a responsibility as part of a society, but also, and as I mentioned before, because there is a gap in the market, there is an increase in interest in connecting with ethical and fair trade. After the awareness is raised, the woman and the private sector sit down and start to define the terms and conditions in which their business agreement will be elaborated. Besides this agreement, it's also about getting a cultural understanding, to reach this cultural understanding between the women and between the private sector. And finally, to transform these compromises into tangible results, which will be the business agreements that we will support and promote between the woman and the private sector. So at the end, we facilitate the fair and ethical trade of their textiles. And the third element is the mentorship program. We heard a lot about resilience, but what really means resilience? In this case, the mentorship program is exactly this, is trying to leverage different expertise to give advice in overcoming unexpected complexities. And I mean, the COVID-19 is an event that it was unexpected. And when you have different people trying to solve a problem, it enriches the solutions. So this is the mentorship program, and we are proposing to address it in 3 different layers. So first of all, locally, the woman and the local collaborators, this can be NGOs or educational institutions already working with the woman in Mexico, Peru, and Guatemala. And they provide the guidance to the community to implement the already acquired tools. And after this, the partners are the other layer. So we will accompany and mentor the local participants throughout the entire project. And at the end, after the market access, the business agreements are made, etc., we return and implement an inclusive evaluation where we start to talk where we get the inputs from the different participants, not only the woman and the local collaborators, but also the private sector. And together with the woman, we start designing a strategy that can boost the results in the medium and long term. So at this point, I have explained the 3 main elements and the interdisciplinarity nature of the project. But I mean, I guess the $1 million question is really, what do we expect to achieve? Well, in numbers, we expect to achieve more than 150 Indigenous women who can participate in these capacity building initiatives and throughout the 3 main elements that I just showed. And we know that in many circumstances, these women are the pillars or the backbones of communities and families. Therefore, the project foresees to benefit more than 700 families across the 3 countries. But in qualitative terms, in heritage, it It seeks to reinforce heritage systems and also to increase the appreciation of indigenous cultures, while it is a community-based approach in the context of indigenous people. The project also advocates for indigenous people's respect of their rights and values and cultures. But there is a problem here. We are unable to put a number on the people benefited from the project, apart from the evident footprint that we're going to leave in the communities. And why do I say this? Well, basically because the project is designed to be replicated. And we're going to do this through different points. The first one is that throughout the entire capacity building element, we will document it. And then along with the lessons learned, we are going to integrate it in one interactive training material. So anyone who is interested to replicate this exercise, this capacity building exercise, they can do it just with one single click. The second one point for its replication is that, as I explained, the partners develop their activities in different fields of work. They have different fields of work. And so the initiative not only enriches tourism practices, but also cultural practices, indigenous people working in tourism, indigenous people working with textiles, and the list goes on. And I mean, all of these fields of work, all of our partners have already an extensive web of collaborators. So this guarantees the dissemination of the tool from the Amazonia to the offices of the United Nations. And the third point of that guarantees the replication of the project is that we have visualized the project as a seed. It means that by involving the indigenous people, and especially the leaders, indigenous women leaders, in the training, in the mentorship, they have a retention of the training expertise. So this is resilience. Resilience is that they will be able to use these tools, these capacity building tools, and adapt them to the changing dynamics of the communities and the changing needs of their communities. And I mean, who knows, they can even extend it to include other cultural expressions, gastronomy, pottery, etc. And I mean, jointly with the local collaborators, they can also assist and support other communities or their neighboring communities. So really, this replication is not only in an international or the expertise who was working in the project, but it's also a spillover effect in the communities, etc. So in conclusion, the project Within the Recovery is basically a critical review of international practices. We try to break the mold to shift approaches through an interdisciplinary and bottom-up model with a horizontal use of knowledges. Therefore, we try to improve international practices and to use the combined power of culture and tourism to build resilient communities of indigenous women, to support principles of equal opportunities and fair retribution, and to advocate for gender and ethnicity, not to pose obstacles on socioeconomic development, and in this way to tackle discrimination against indigenous women. This is in general, in overview of the project, and I am sure you have questions and I have answers. But first, I want to thank to our partners to believe in this project and to take part of this project. And I encourage all of you to please contact them and to get their interdisciplinary approach of this project. They are available in the chats. You have the profile page of our project. I invite you to see the profile page and the beautiful video that unfortunately I was unable to show. And to those persons who have the tools to support this project and to help us continue our work, please contact us and we will be more than pleased to share more details with you. Thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna pass to the questions and answers. And this, okay, stop there. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so I have here some questions. Okay, so how do you include Indigenous women throughout the process? Are they included in the decision-making process? Well, as I mentioned, we include them in the team, the technical team who is going to implement the workshops. This team is not only implementing the workshop, but it's also gathering the knowledges of all the participants in all the fields of expertise. So yes, their knowledge is included there. Their decision-making process is also included there. And they are also a part of the expertise, and that's why we call it an horizontal model of knowledge. Besides this, the encounter and the sharing of experiences between communities secures that the knowledge is not only coming from the outside, but it's also nurtured and enriched by similar contexts and similar challenges in the country, no? And then how to ensure that trade has been ethical? What are your criteria? This is a great question. And we are paying special attention on this. As I say, our colleagues from Impacto have raised the issue of the problems faced by Indigenous women working with textiles in the international market. So when I explained that in the market access component, there is a moment where the woman and the private sector sit down and they discuss and agreed on the terms and conditions in which their business agreements will be based on. And in here is the criteria. We're not going to impose it. Again, this is the decision making that the woman will do, and they will agree how they want to share it and under which conditions they want to share their textiles. And our expertise will only help them to raise the issues, for example, the uses of their iconography and etc. So we will be there to guide this process and to be sure that the agreements are in line with the guidelines who was previously consensuated or like agreed between both parties. So and then with the revision of the results, when we come back and do the inclusive evaluation, then we will also monitor if these agreements have followed the guidelines. So this is how we tried at the extent possible to secure the ethical trade. How has COVID, sorry, this is the next question. How much time do I have left? Okay, I have 5 minutes left. How has COVID-19 affected the livelihoods of these women? The project is still at an early stage. When do you expect to see the results? And then how will the COVID-19 also affect the implementation of the project? Okay, I think I will have the time to answer maybe one or two. So yes, the project is still in early stage. We have the conceptual design is done of the methodology. As I say, the partners will be laughing on the other side of the screen, but it is not easy to speak tourism culture, Indigenous cultures, Indigenous women working with textiles. I mean, we have this model finally merged, and now we are ready to start to implement the capacity building activities. But for this, we need, and we are seeking for the finance support. And by the way, I want to thank the Paris Peace Forum to give us this opportunity to invite interested donors to help us make this initiative and achieve the expected results. Now, the COVID-19. How will the COVID-19 affect the implementation of your project? Well, of course, it is affecting it. As I say, the project was conceived to respond to the COVID because I mean, we are talking about many compromises in this forum, but how do we really reach the ones further behind, the ones that are in the most vulnerable position? No, so this project tries to do this. That the recovery is just not words to say that everyone is going to recover together, but really to put actions into words. And so the project actually was conceived because of COVID-19. We, of course, have enough flexibility in our methodologies, and it's not only because of COVID, but also when you work with Indigenous peoples and communities, you cannot expect that they all have the same needs or they have the same reality. So this is the expertise that the partners brought to the table to be realistic, that we need to have certain flexibility. And so we have the tools and the people to respond to adversities, to respond to situations either where we have to revise our design, but it is doable. It is designed in this way, as it is designed also for its replication. Do you plan to promote the exchanges between Indigenous women in those 3 countries? So to promote peer learning? I mean, yes, that would be great. It will be great. And this is something one of our partner members, because sometimes we just dream about how big this project can get. And so this will be great to actually get an encounter of all these women who were benefited, and to really exchange their results and sometime after, and for them themselves to enrich their knowledges. No, I think this can be even possible with the Indigenous leaders who will act as trainers and as mentors, and this is what I was discussing today in one of the workshops of the forum, is that one of the colleagues was saying that she had a lot of difficulty to implement the workshops that they usually do, because they cannot go to the communities. And this is the key of this. This is the key of resilience in this project, is that through the woman, through the leaders of the community, we can communicate and share these tools, this expertise. And so they don't depend on external agencies or external expertise for them to be able to respond to these adversities. And that it's one of the goals of this project, to not only talk about resilience, but actually to deliver resilience. And I think, okay, so thank you very much for your presence today. I hope this was a fruitful discussion. And once more, I invite you to visit the page of the project, Within the Recovery, Indigenous Women in Tourism. And please take a look on the beautiful video that we have prepared for you. Here to the messages of the women of Los Altos and the Totonaca women in Veracruz. And this is all from my side. Thank you very much for your time.